Auction time, auction time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's auction time. My name is Myers Jackson, America's Auctioneer. We're down here today in Plano, Texas, and we're going to have an auction. It goes something like this: 75,000 now, 125 and a half, 75 and a 200, 2.5, 300,000, 3.5 and a 400,000, $400,000 asking for 450, asking for 450, 450, 500,000, 500 and a half, with a 500 and a half and a 6 now, 6 and a half and a 7, 7 and a half and an 8, 8 and a half and a 9, 8 and a half and a 9, a 9, 9, 9 and a half and a $1 million, $1 million, 1, 1, 1, 1 million, 1, 1 million, 1, sold, $1 million, sold, $1 million.
Welcome to As Real as They Come Dallas. My name is Yulia Brown, and this episode is brought to you by Guaranteed Rate here in Dallas area, and also by Photos by Walt. So please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. We're always looking forward to your feedback. And today in my studio we have amazing auctioneer in real estate, Mr. Myers Jackson, with America's Auctioneers. Welcome.
Thank you for having me today. It's mighty exciting to be here. I know we're going to have a good time.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And before we get into that very special and very different niche in real estate, tell us about yourself. Tell us how you came about and what did you do before you got into real estate?
Well, I've been an entrepreneur all my life. Worked basically for two people before I got into my own business. Worked for the United States government as a United States Marine. And
wow,
then,
thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you. I got to be a roofer, and I become a roofing contractor and then opened my own business. Started investing in some real estate, and I said, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing in real estate. Went to real estate school to really understand the mechanics of real estate, and then here I are one now. So that R stands for realtor. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
So.
Gotta love realtors. These guys definitely know what they do, and they definitely guide a lot of people to biggest investments in their entire life.
That's exactly right. Somewhere around 1997, I believe, is when I first went to real estate school, and I kind of like it, but what I did not like was the house showings. Back then, you waited for that person, and if they didn't show, they didn't show. There wasn't texting, there wasn't email communication that was really, really good. So you went out to the house and waited, and I did not like that. So I learned about how to auction real estate.
Wow.
And that brings me to where I am today. It's been 21 years in the auction business. As of June 20th was my 21st anniversary in the auction business.
Wow, that's definitely impressive. So how did you even come up with the concept? Was this concept there before? Or I know that there are people that auction foreclosed properties, but can you do this to residential?
Well, the answer is yes to a lot of things, all of the above. And auctions have really been around since about 500 BC. So it's not new to the planet. However, it was back in early days as people were coming over from other countries. Different forms of auctions start happening, and you may relate auctioneering to maybe estate auctions or antique auctions, and we call that chattel in our business. So it's personal property, movable stuff. So back in the early 1900s, around 1915, 1918, there was a few auction companies that really started hitting the big guns. Some of these guys are still around, their companies are. So they were really pioneers in the auction method of marketing. Now, marketing is a big key in what we do. It's not just about fast talk. It is about how do we get a product out in front of somebody, what is the dynamics of really moving that along. So real estate auctions have really become more popular in the last 20 years just because, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about this a little bit, because the foreclosure business, which is not friends to anyone. You go back to the Great Depression. So there was a lot of property that the banks took back. How did they liquidate the property? Well, they started calling auctioneers. Why? Because we're snappy, we can make it happen, we can sell multiples of properties at the same time. So you fast forward to the savings and loan debacle in the late 80s and early 90s, and then you get into the bubble around 2008 and 9, and what happens is institutions, banks, hedge companies, these other people who's holding a lot of real estate start calling on auctioneers and say, hey, we need to get rid of this real estate and now. So a lot of people equate foreclosures with auction, but I'm going to tell you there's a whole world of auctioneering that does not even mention the word foreclosure. So that's what I do. I do not do foreclosure auctions. Let's make that straight. I do customized marketing plans for all of my customers.
That's impressive. And let's say you auction, are all of your buyers cash buyers, or they finance as well?
Well, a lot of them are cash buyers because what a seller really likes from an auctioneer is a couple things. Number one, we can identify who really wants the property. Now, we have a lot of cash buyers that will leverage their lending capabilities. So now they find a great lender and they ask the lender, will you pre-approve me to bid on this piece of property? So all that's already cleared up in advance. Oh, that's the dream world for an auctioneer or other realtors, because now we know that we're dealing with a qualified customer. Our clients, which are the sellers, they want to know that. And now just think about what's going on today. What is one of the hottest terms in today's market? Multiple offers.
Oh my Lord, you can say that again. I'm like, I'm trying to block it out.
I mean,
80
is that
offers,
not true?
100 offers. People have amazing amount of offers.
So let's put this in perspective. An average realtor may get 80 offers in what, 1 week? I may get 80 offers in the next 5 minutes.
Wow.
So, as an auctioneer, we have been managing multiple offers for years and years and years. One of the main differences is we're able to put the terms and conditions out front in front of the prospective buyers and say, here's 10 rules. You follow these 10 rules, you can play the game. Now, as we're taking the offers in, we know that we're dealing with credible people. We know that they've got excellent lenders, and if they have cash, that makes it real good. So everybody's competing on the same playing field. A lot of times you may see the term non-contingent on financing in the offering terms. However, that buyer knows that they have the ability to put up the collateral or have the equity in some other properties that they have in order to leverage that. So they're not so worried about, are they going to get their loan turned down.
Yeah, and it's very good to know, like you said, it's good to have a lender that you trust.
Exactly.
Because when you get into not contingent on financing, and a lot of times it doesn't mean that financing is not involved. It just means whether you approved or not, you have to purchase that property.
That's right.
Or there's a lawsuit for specific performance. No, that's for the sellers, but still.
Well, it could be buyer or seller. So in the auction world, once a person puts their hand in the air at the auction and said, I do, they're expected to follow through with, I will. So of course, not being a lawyer, you may get into some technical issues there, but you have to really consider, if you're a buyer, are you making a serious play to buy this piece of real estate? And if you do, and you back out or you default, there may be some serious consequences. The seller may have serious consequences as well. So we take it each project by project. We like to make it happen. We like to produce a very qualified buyer, and our sellers, you know what? They're looking for that qualified buyer because they don't want to play any games. They want to get the transaction out of the way, go on to their next chapter in their life.
And leveraging your cash is also very important. And a lot of times you have to use all cash to buy the property, but you have to keep in the back of your mind that you can always cash out 80% of that to make sure, 20% of that to make sure that you can use that for your next project.
Yeah, that's right. So some investors buy at auction. We find a lot of what we call end users. Those are the people who are actually going to use that property. They may want to live in for the rest of their life. And this is the fun thing about auctions. Now, it is all about the competition. So we all love sports. We all love, well, let's put it into perspective, playing the game. So this is a serious business transaction. We understand that. But why should a person buy at auction? Do you have any idea?
That's just spirit of competition. That's one of them. But second, you probably can get a better deal at some point.
What about what is the correct market value? Auctions produce the market value at the time that the auction is being held. Now, just like with any trend in real estate, it may change 6 months or a year from now, but just think about this. We're in multiple offer situations a lot of times, and we have people that's just throwing around money, and they may think at the end of the day, I've just signed a contract, and guess what, sweetheart? We have paid too much money for this piece of property, but now we have to live with it. What about having a spirited, live competition where an auctioneer comes in and you manage this? How would you feel if the last person who bid was maybe just $1,000 less than your bid? Would that make you feel good?
Yes.
Why? Because you won the deal, but you didn't have to pay tens of thousands of dollars more than
the other guy.
That's right. So by having a transparent operation, and this is not a gig on realtors, okay? Because realtors are taking multiple offers, and sometimes their hands are tied by what they can do. I just happen to have 2 licenses that allows me to operate. I'm a real estate broker, and I'm a real estate auctioneer. So I have both licenses. So now, in an open and transparent world, I can say, you know what? I just got a bid for $450,000. Would you be $500,000? Now we're doing this today through electronic means. We're taking emails. We're taking written contracts. But now I can still get on the phone and I can say, Mr. Jones, you've just been outbid by $25,000. Do you want to bid the $475,000? And I can do this all day long until somebody says, I quit. I can't pay anymore. Now I'm able to take that offer to the sellers, and I'm able to say, here you have a well-qualified purchaser, and guess what? They're going to pay the closing cost. They're going to pay the survey. Mm-hmm. And guess what? What else are they going to pay?
They're going to pay over the purchase price.
They've paid over they've paid over the listed price,
right,
or the price that is anticipated for purchase. So that's 3 things that they've really come out of their pocket for. What's the 4th thing that they're going to pay for?
Appraisal.
That's part of it. So now let's get on up to number 5.
Number 5.
We've covered a lot of them. What if I told everybody that buyer pays my commission? Have you ever heard of such a thing?
No. That's why it didn't even cross my mind.
It doesn't cross your mind. So a lot of this is about education in the auction industry because I believe it was started in England back a great number of years ago. But a good friend of mine from Miami was one of the first ones that brought this to the auction industry about 30 years ago, somewhere around 1990. Is that 30 years or is that, that's a long time ago.
Many moons ago.
Let's just say, so the buyer's premium started being used around 1990 in the United States of America. So what does that mean? That means that an auctioneer brings a property to market and chattels, because we use it with chattels or personal property, and the buyer pays a premium. And you would say, why in the world would the buyer ever pay a premium? Why would we do this? And it all comes back to this magnificent word that we talked about a while ago, the world of competition. If you disclose properly, and if you lay the rules out in front of the buyers, and the buyers are saying, hey, I will pay this much. Oh, wait a minute, I will pay this much, but you're also paying these other things. Now that helps the seller net more money. More money goes into their pocket. Their bottom line is greater.
That's a very interesting concept, and I've been in real estate for quite some time. That's entirely different angle on real estate.
It's an entirely different angle. So auctioneers really understand this. So let's talk about some comparative differences between what is commonly referred to as that foreclosure auction. Again, they have at the courthouse step. How do you find out about that?
You call
The legal description,
Yep.
or you find the legal announcements, and the clerk of the court is charged with saying, hey, we're going to sell these properties on the courthouse step, and they come to the courthouse step or in a room or however that they do it nowadays, and then they offer the foreclosed properties. The banks generally have a buy-in right. That means that they can come back and bid for whatever mortgage amount that they have, and they can take that property back into possession. One of the biggest things that auctioneers do different is our marketing techniques. Our marketing techniques are not designed to be in the legal section of the paper, and that's where they're putting them. We're coming out with all kinds of marketing attributes, such as search engine optimization, whether it's paid, digital, viral distribution. We're doing videos, we're doing drones, and we're doing all of these things in a really, really shortened period of time. And we're marketing the properties in more of a large scale event. That's the reason why that I said the auction method of marketing. Auction method of marketing is what brings more buyers, better prices, and at the end of the day, a lot of your sellers get better terms. Now, let's talk it from the buyer standpoint. What would a buyer say about this?
Well, it depends what they're trying to do, because some buyers can be scared or intimidated by the
Exactly.
process. They can definitely look at it and say, well, I'm out of the league. Where does this little guy fit in?
Well, you know what, and that's exactly what a lot of buyers think, or it may be a cultural difference where you come from some place that may not have ever heard of an auction. So how am I going to buy a piece of property that's going to auction when I don't even understand the process? As auctioneers, and I'm gonna reach out here and speak on behalf of auctioneers around the country, because I'm friends with a lot of auctioneers and I know their intentions. They want everybody to be a good purchaser. That's the reason why we put the terms and conditions out there in advance. Now, we're not going to represent the buyers, we're going to represent the sellers, but we want each buyer to understand, I have a chance. How do you have a chance? Be well qualified with your paperwork. Be well qualified with your lender. Have your lender prepare that bank letter of guarantee. It says, okay, you write a check for X amount of dollars today, it's going to be good. Or you have your mortgage officer come in and say, you know what, this person is qualified for X number of dollars. So they come to the auction live, or nowadays we're doing more and more online auctions. So now you can get on the internet, and I mean, I'm just on the phone today with a potential customer from El Paso. Yesterday I'm on the phone with a potential customer from New York, and then a guy from Miami calls me today and says, hey, I want to bid on this piece of property. Are they going to come to a live auction? I doubt it. Are we going to have a live auction for all these properties? Probably not for all of them, but we can certainly sell them online, and we're set up to do so.
I love that. And you brought a good point that in order for you to get well qualified with your lender, it's very important to, in the beginning of the process, build that packet. If lender asks you for those 7, 8 items to build your packet, because that means that when you get that contract executed, you can also compete against other buyers with the terms
Exactly.
when you can close. If we have this paperwork, if we already did all the verification on it,
That's right.
we already cut out at least a week and a half of work that will hold up any other buyer, because they didn't want to produce the paperwork, or time was not there, or ability to do so was not there. So now you are already ahead of most of the people
That's right.
in
You're
that
prepared.
game. And are you licensed? I know you have buyers from other states. What about you being able to auctioneer other properties?
Yeah, so as of Saturday, I took another real estate test, and I become licensed in the great state of North Carolina. I've been a auction company licensed as an auction company and an auctioneer in North Carolina for, I don't know, a good number of years, probably 15 years now. But finally broke down and took my test in North Carolina, and I think that the count is up to 15 states that I'm a real estate broker. Some states, such as Virginia, I can conduct auctions in Virginia, and some other states without a real estate license. But we have a network of individuals, and I'll just go ahead and throw this out here.
Okay.
As an auctioneer, I sell a lot of, let's use the word chattels again. And what does chattels mean? It may be your grandmother's collection of blue willow china. Mm-hmm. It may be a Rolex watch that's antique, and you really don't know what the value of it is. Well, I guarantee you right now, I've got a network of auctioneers. All I've got to do is say, hey, I've got this antique Rolex. What could this be worth? And I'm going to get back immediate answers that is astounding. So inside of the real estate, and agents sometimes look at all the stuff inside of the real estate and say, what are we going to do? I got my hand in the air. I can help you clear out the stuff on the inside because we have channels to do so while we sell the real estate inside and outside.
That's amazing. And that Rolex is probably worth than the house by itself.
Yeah.
At that rate.
You know, I got a good friend over in Missouri. So he sells the house at auction. And it was a moderate house, you know, nothing real fancy. He sells the house, I don't know, let's just say $100,000. Pretty good day for the house, for the market, for what it was worth. Mm-hmm. But he sells the stuff in the house, more particularly a comic book collection for $1.6 million.
Wow.
So those are some of the differences. Do you know what has been left by your grandparents or your parents that they want to sell the real estate and something else in there? An auctioneer can be your friend, I guarantee that.
Wow, that's impressive. And you would never think about it. You look at this stuff, it's like, oh, it's a bunch of junk. Should I just throw it away? 1.6 million. You may want to think about it and call this guy.
That's it. There you go.
Reconsider your actions for sure.
Yes.
So what would you say, where you see yourself next few years? I know that you are definitely growing as a broker. I know you acquired a great staff.
We do. Well, you know, we have been rapidly transitioning into an online world. I've been doing online sales now since 2004, and we have seen that part of our business grow. And even though that a great deal of real estate is still, the cliche is handshakes and smiles, mm-hmm. and that you will never, I don't think, ever alleviate that personal touch from the real estate transactions. But there's certain segments of the market, such as land, where you don't have to be as hands-on, that you can actually sell your product more in that online space in a very competitive world. And I do a lot of that, and I've done a lot of land throughout my career. We've sold small tracts of land and large tracts of land, and sometimes the buyers are well equipped. And what I mean by that, they can look online and they can look at let's say a section of land that's 640 acres. Most buyers, they might look a little bit, but they're going to use tools like Google Earth. They're going to look at the county appraiser's website and find out a little bit more about that piece of property, and they're comfortable bidding from Wichita, Kansas, or Chicago, Illinois. They may come down and look at it a little bit, but they'll go back home or they'll get on their smartphone, and we're well equipped with web-based smartphone applications that you make your offer right there online. That is going to be a trend that is going to continue to grow, and live auctioneers, I believe, is going to be around for a many decades to come, centuries to come. However, the assistance of the online tools and programs that are out there are tremendous. I'm a member of the National Auctioneers Association. Mm-hmm. And we are constantly educating ourselves with new tools, tips, hints, techniques that other auctioneers are using around the country, so we're able to capitalize on their great experiences. They teach us, we teach them. That's the network that we have.
That's exquisite, and it's definitely a lot to take in because this is entirely different world from our custom real estate where you said it's shakes and smiles. But are your properties, are they exclusive to your website or are they listed anywhere else in the World Wide Web?
We use everything possible as an auctioneer, and this is how I was taught in accelerated marketing. You grab every piece of the market that you possibly can. If it's a small piece, grab it. There may be one or two people in that market segment that is looking, or you grab a big piece. If you can, utilize the multiple listing service. Sometimes auctioneers or the multiple listing service may not have a spot for auctioneers, but auctioneers are very, very creative on how to use that MLS in order to get the word out because we want the realtors to be involved. So we're very aggressive. We're very, I don't want to use the word, push in the fact that, hey, we're going to do it and going to do it now. But in one sense, we are. I mean, when we're talking to marketing agencies that may be doing the work for us, a lot of them that designate themselves to only doing auction marketing, they expect it. They know when an auctioneer lays that portfolio of marketing and advertising on the table in front of them, say, hey, we got to go now. This is used to. We'd say, give us 30 or 45 days in the market, and we will produce a buyer for you. Guess what we're having to say now? We're saying, you know what, I'll have this auction live within 24 hours ready for the public to bid on your property. I have the capabilities to do that. Case in point, just a few weeks ago, I sell a house. So let's back up to the listing date. I list the house on Thursday afternoon, 6 p.m. We make it coming soon because we want to prepare. Mm-hmm. Well, in today's market, a lot of individuals was already calling and say, hey, as soon as it comes, as soon as I want to show. That was on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I talked to my sellers on Saturday evening. And I say, what do you think about just going ahead and let's just make this live on the market tomorrow, which would be Sunday. I'll have an open house. I'll prepare for people to make bids. Bids, offers, interchangeable, same things. If you make a bid on a property or make an offer on the property, it's the same thing. Sometimes people get confused because as an auctioneer, I say, hey, you're going to make a bid on the property, and they're like, oh, what is that? You're making an offer. That's all it is. So my seller says, let's go for it. Mm-hmm. That's Sunday. By Sunday night, we have a contract prepared with a buyer in place.
Wow.
We close the whole deal the next Thursday by 3 p.m. Not quite a full week. So what I'm saying is
supersonic speed in real estate, that's what it is.
Auctioneers have been used to working like that for eons. That's what we do. Mm-hmm. So accelerated marketing, terms and conditions, thinking outside the box, having good lenders, good cash buyers. Most of the time, everything ends up, very, very well. We keep the time frame, and that's what we want to have happen for both buyers and sellers.
I definitely love that. I remember you told me one of the cases that I think that's the same one where you had a buyer, but then they had cold feet.
Well, this is okay. So this is another situation. Mm-hmm. So I'm in the auction process, and we're in Florida. We're in Ocala, Florida, and I'm selling a piece of property. I make the announcements, the terms and conditions. I let everybody know this is how you're going to bid and buy today. It's called the opening statement, and auctioneers make them before the opening of every auction. You read those terms and conditions. You tell everybody, this is the rules of the game. This is how we're going to play the game today. If you do not want to abide by these rules, exit left. So I have a winning bidder. The winning bidder, commonly, we come to the table to sign the contracts, make the deposit. Guess what happened this day?
He didn't have the money.
Well, I believe he had the money. But this particular buyer was a very smart buyer. Now, we was up against a hard date, which is called a tax deed sale in Florida. And what happens at a tax deed sale is that sells, and the redemption is very, very hard to attain if there is the redemption period. In Florida, there is a redemption period. But now you got to jump through a bunch of hurdles. But who wants to go through that process? So we knew we was up against that tax deed sale. This auction was on Saturday. We did not know exactly when the tax deed sale was going to happen, but we knew it was imminent. Well, I think that the buyer might have had some inside knowledge, so the buyer wanted to stall.
The process.
He wanted to stall the process. Now, remember, as the auctioneer, I've already said sold. Okay, we know we're sold. We're going to contract. That is what's fixing to happen in the next 5 minutes. That doesn't happen because the buyer says, "Well, let me go down the road and get my checkbook." And I said, "Well, I will follow you. Okay, we'll travel to the end of the Everglades to get your checkbook. Doesn't matter. We're going to do it here today." He says, "Well, I really want my attorney to look at the contract." Now, very important that everybody's attorney looks at the contract, but you do it beforehand, not afterward, because there is no contingency in the terms and conditions that says we're going to let an attorney look at the contract next week. You have the chance to inspect the property. You have the chance to inspect the documents. Bring your attorney to the auction if you want to. But now when I say sold, it was sold. And he says, "Well, I'm not comfortable with this." What did I do next?
Well, you were searching for somebody that was literally one step behind him.
Exactly. So there was a lady, which is called our backup bidder. And you know what? When you're buying real estate, the biggest investment in some people's lives, sometimes $2,000 or $3,000 or maybe $5,000 doesn't make a big difference. So as the auctioneer, I knew, and I want to back up and say, I represent the sellers in these transactions. My job is to represent that seller to the best of my ability. And what happened? This buyer almost gained control of the situation. But what did I do is I picked up the phone, I called that backup bidder in front of the buyer, in front of the high bidder. And I said, "Ma'am," I said, "you're the backup bidder." I said, "We're having a little bit of difficulty here." And I said, "The high bidder does not want to perform under the terms and conditions that was set forth here today." I said, "Would you like to make the same offer that this buyer did and buy this property?" She says, "You know, I wish I'd have bid one more time." I said, "Well, this is your opportunity. Would you do it?" She says, "Yes." I said, "Will you bring a check?" She says, "Absolutely." And the former high bidder says, "Wait a minute, wait." I said, "No, sir." I said, "That part of the auction is over now." And then the new buyer come in. She wrote the check. That was on Saturday. We closed the transaction on Monday. Why? Because the tax deed sale was imminent.
Wow.
The closing agent drove 3.5 hours, got up way before the crack of dawn, drove 3.5 hours and delivered a check to the clerk of the court who says, "Well, this is scheduled for the tax deed sale and it's happening now at 9 o'clock. He says, and by law, they had to accept the check, stay the tax deed sale, save the people's property. That's what an auctioneer can do. No playing games. We're going to make it happen. That's the reason why I love this business, like working for good clients.
That's amazing. Wow, I've learned so much today. This was a lot of good information. Thank you so much. Wow. I'm still like processing this. And Walt, my videographer, he's like, "What? What did I just hear?" This was like a whole bunch of information. Well, I would like to thank you for taking your time out of your extremely busy day,
Exactly.
being here with us on this Real Estate Come Dallas, the Keeping It Realty edition. And please, if you have a property that you either need to save from foreclosure or you need to get it sold, please don't hesitate. Reach out to Myers Jackson and he'll take care of you.
And don't worry about the foreclosures. Foreclosures may be, if you have a magnificent property, it doesn't matter, it can be the best. Just to think about, if it's the best property on the block, drive competition to that piece of property, get the highest and best contract price with the best contract terms. It doesn't matter if it's a piece of land, doesn't matter if it's a house in a subdivision, doesn't matter if it's a commercial property. Realtors, please reach out to me if you think that you've got any potential, what we call issues, that you may not can move a property. We may be able to help you find a solution to do so.
So your client is, they're realtors, your client, they are buyers, your client, they're sellers. Everybody's your client.
Yeah, I mean, the realtors sometimes are apprehensive because they may not understand the process. reach out to me. Let's just have a telephone conversation. I do this all the time. For sale by owners, if you're listening and you want to sell your property on your own, remember that part I said about, hey, you may not have to pay me a commission. The buyer will pay me a commission. It's a wonderful tool. You may not have to pay the closing cost or that survey. And the realtors say, how can you do this? Because this is auctioneers. This is what we do.
This is what you do. Well, thank you so much for watching. This was Is Real Estate Come Dallas with Yulia Brown, brought to you by Guaranteed Rate and photos by Walt. Thank you, guys. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, and we'll be more than happy to hear your feedback. Thank you.
Have a good day.